Do we have anyone who's at their first meeting and is willing to introduce themselves? I will bring you the magic device. You would tell us your name and maybe why you're here. What attracted you? What are you thinking about?
It's Donna Stewart. Hi.
A little louder.
I'm Donna Stewart. Hi. And this is my first meeting. I just retired 2 weeks ago. Wow. And I'm looking to get involved in things that are really meaningful to me. And I picked up a card at the protest and read about the organization online and want to get involved and get on committees.
Hi, I'm Anna Sparlin. I've been to a pop-up, but this is my first official meeting, and the reason is because I saw sustainability, and during the election, there was questions about candidates' opinions of having a data center in Arvada, and I'm very against that, so I was like, oh, this seems like the perfect meeting to have that issue because of sustainability issues with data centers.
Yes.
Yes. You have to have a double N.
Brian, just one N. My name is Brian Bond. I'm also retired, but 5 or 6 years now. And just wanted to be around people that are like-minded. And I don't seem to be getting that in my neighborhood or my extended family. And so anyway, I'm here. I'm not a real big participator, but yet I'm curious to, like I say, be around people who have the same mindset as I am. So I too was at the potluck, and this is my first meeting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Comment and Brian.
Break the N train. I'm Jacob. I just moved up here from Colorado Springs and was just looking for a way to get involved in the new home. And I found you online, so this is like my first event ever. So happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Brad Walker. I actually came to one meeting a little over a year ago, I think it was, but I wanted to be here. Thank you for the fine way to support the climate committee and supporting the city of Arvada with its sustainability and climate action plan. Hope I can help that go on. Great.
Thank you all. Do we have anybody running for office or current office holders? One of the cool things about APA is current office holders and candidates do come to this room to talk to us because they know we have power. We had how many 1,000 plus at our website before the 2024 election, checking out our recommendations. So you will be a voting member if you make yourself one by agreeing to our general philosophy. And then you can help those 1,000 people out there who are looking for help about, especially when there's a lot of ballot measures. People are, what do? I'll go to APA's website. Pretty amazing. All right. When this group was founded, before my time, it was decided that at meetings we would talk briefly about what kept us up at night, which is getting easier and easier, and what gives us hope, which we are still doing. So, who would like to start us with what keeps you, or what gives you hope?
What's keeping me up at night is all the warmongering about Venezuela. I'm just appalled.
Harriet Hall on Zoom.
Hi, and I'm sorry for not being there. I just ran out of time today because I intended to come in person. So let me see if I can do this quick because it's a little bit complicated, but what I want to share is something that gave me hope this morning. I was listening to Heather Cox Richardson and Joanne Freeman, who she has a show with every Saturday, a video chat. And Joanne brought up that the Pantone color for the year is Cloud Dancer White. And they had this long conversation about what it meant that white was picked for the color of the year by Pantone. And they ended up concluding that the white meant it's a blank slate and we get to paint on it our future. And that really gave me hope.
Thank you, Harriet. Next.
What's keeping me up at night is the Supreme Court. Really worried about that. The prospect that they're overturning the 14th Amendment may leave the door wide open for Trump to determine who's a citizen and who isn't. And parallel with that is what I've been reading about big database that is being compiled by ICE to spy on people's social media. So everyone keep that in mind. What's giving me hope, I guess the Democrat wins in the election a couple weeks ago gave me a little bit of hope.
Great. Thank you. We are nonpartisan, but we can still be happy when the Democrats. I know that sounds odd, but hope and truth.
I've got some local ones. For what's keeping me up, the Jefferson County Public Library is a unionized workforce. Our management walked away from our negotiations. So all of the end of year raises, benefits, changes are all on hold until they come back and we finish our contract. So like nearly 400 employees, including myself, don't know how the end of the year is going to go because they walked away when the government was in shutdown. So a couple of our employees were on public service and was like, we don't know what to expect for the year. So that's keeping us up. The hope is also labor related, seeing how people have responded to the Starbucks strike, seeing how the other wins across the county. I'm like, okay, we're gonna get this contract done. We're gonna win this, even if it's not CERN right now. So that's something local that we're looking at.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
No, one more on Zoom.
Last one on Zoom.
Yeah, this is Martin Walker. I just wanted to alert people to what I put up on Zoom. I'm starting a new campaign to save what used to be NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab. It's being assaulted by the Trump administration and our very own Chris Wright here in Colorado. And this campaign, the danger is that we're losing the mission of the lab, which is renewable energy, and its funding. That will be decided in January, so please watch out for an event that I'm organizing at Jefferson Unitarian. It's going to be a town hall and an effort to mobilize people to talk to their representatives. My contact info is in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. That's a good reminder. All right, we do collect contributions to help pay for this room and our Zoom subscription and our OWL and our email subscription and so forth. Supplies and other things. If you don't have cash on you, you can always go on the website and make a contribution through ActBlue on our website. Let me now introduce Action Team leaders who will tell you a little bit about what their group is doing. We have, I think it was Anna or Donna that mentioned wanting to join a group. Here's your chance to hear from some of those group leaders, and we will start with Liz or Allison, who are online talking about our communications team.
Hi, everybody. I can only see Jim. So Jim, will you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, or am I screaming? Okay, good. Hi, everybody. So sorry I can't be there in person. I will share what the communications team does. And so we put together the weekly newsletter that you see, the website, manage most of our social channels. And so if you're in the room and supporting the newsletter by...
You're breaking up on us.
if you are in the room and would like to help with any of those communications related tasks, please reach out to us. Thanks.
How do they reach out to you if they're in the room and you're not?
You can email us at arvadansforprogressiveaction@gmail.com.
Perfect. All right, how about education team? Allison?
That's me. We have a new school board for Jefferson County, which I think we're happy with the election results. It took some time.
You're also breaking up.
I'm going to turn off my video. That might help. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. We have a new school board. And I think that's a good thing. I am looking for a few people, tasks that to help people get involved in education. I've been spending most of my time with a group Engage Jeffco, because our school systems are really not like just Arvada based, or so we're working within the entire district of Jeffco. So we are committing to going to every single school board meeting this year, or in 2026, and recording and kind of taking a summary of what's happening and being spoken about at the school board, so that we just have a better pulse of like what's happening and what people are bringing as concerns. So what we're looking for volunteers for is for somebody to attend the meeting. They can even watch it online, like you don't have to be in person, and take notes, and so that we can rotate that that task through a few different people, so it's not the same people taking notes the whole time. So that's one ask. So if you're interested in attending school board meetings and taking notes, that would be a great way to get involved with the education team. And we also would like to have somebody that's dedicated to keeping a pulse on Colorado colleges, things that are happening there. I know that colleges are specifically, higher education is being attacked by the Trump administration. We did have a letter writing campaign to ask Colorado colleges to protect students' rights, free speech earlier this year. So we'd like to keep working on colleges and action. So if somebody has a particular interest in being involved with colleges, you can email me as well, or early childhood learning, so preschool age. And if you go to arvadansforprogressiveaction.org and go to the education action team, you can find at the bottom of that page a direct link to email me. So you can email me and let me know that you want to be involved in any of those ways. So
thank you.
Yep.
I'm going to cut you off because
Yep.
we're over time. Thank you very much. Kathy Blake on healthcare.
Nope. Thank you, Jim.
Right.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I'm Kathy Blake, Healthcare Action Team Leader. Our team advocates for a publicly financed, privately delivered, universal healthcare system in Colorado and beyond, and nationwide. Though our healthcare system has been broken for many years, it's getting worse. Our team is working on a short-term and a long-term solution to secure equal access to affordable, quality health care for all Coloradans. Okay, the next step, long-term, is growing support for the statewide healthcare analysis study. APA is part of an alliance with 5 other healthcare groups, advocacy groups in the state working for the same goal. Thank you so much for those of you who have donated your time and your money. All are welcome at the Alliance weekly meetings. They're on Tuesdays. Also, there's another educational fundraiser coming up on Zoom on Tuesday, December 16th at 6 p.m. Researchers will be there to answer your questions. In the short term, we're finding low or no cost clinics to help people access healthcare. The 2026 healthcare crisis is due to skyrocketing premiums and government programs being cut. Are you or someone you know losing their healthcare insurance or access? Our next Healthcare Action Team meeting on Zoom on December 13th will feature Allison Dreyer, who is from the Stride Community Health Center in Wheat Ridge, describing their healthcare services. They have a sliding scale. So come join us. You can either email me at Kathy with a C, Kathy.M.Blake@gmail.com, or ask me for a card and I will give you one of my business cards. Thank you, and I hope you join us.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Anti-war, Bruce Morrison.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
You heard already somebody mention the insanity in the Caribbean with Trump just picking out boats to shoot with no rationale. That has nothing to do with drugs. At the same time he was doing that, he pardoned a known convicted former president of Honduras, convicted drug dealer. So it's not. So the other thing is, I want to make everyone aware. You probably already are, but that the ceasefire in Gaza has not stopped the bombing, and they are still not allowing enough materials to go into Gaza. Settler violence is out of control. Trump and Tony Blair who are not friends of the Palestinians, are playing a major role in rebuilding Gaza, if that happens. And there is nothing to protect the Gazans from the Israelis. A bill, positive note, a bill in settler violence that was put in by Biden and rescinded by Trump has 100 co-sponsors. So it'll pass, including all 4 Colorado Democrats. So I think that is maybe partially because we've been calling on to speak up for Palestinians. The other thing this team is doing is we're looking into participating more in the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. Priority targets are Chevron, Texaco, Dell Computers, Hewlett Packard Computers, Xbox, AXA Investments, Reebok, and Disney, and Remax. So, thank you. Peace.
Affordable housing anymore. Oh, she's queued up. Nice work.
Thanks. Fine. So it's nice and warm in here. How many in the room had to sleep in their car or in a tent this last week? Yeah, we're lucky. But the city of Arvada, along with other cities in Jefferson County, used motel vouchers to house almost 300 people this last week. And it's not the most efficient system paying for motels, but the only church in this area that was willing to do overnight sheltering was Mission Arvada, the Rising Church, which the city does not like and the businesses do not like. No other church has volunteered to actually be a location, and we still don't have a neighborhood that wants it in their neighborhood. So stay tuned for more advocacy on that this next year. On the affordable housing side, there's not a lot to report from the city, but I do want to say, you've all heard about what the federal government's been doing with food benefits, with SNAP benefits, and hunger was the big issue is. And we've all heard about cuts and new requirements for people, low-income people on Medicaid or people who are disabled, another big issue. Well, third thing that the federal government's also cutting are housing supports. HUD just recently changed the way that they're going to allow what's called permanent supportive housing to be funded. So this is things where people who need supports, who maybe have been homeless and on the street and now need help to stay in an apartment, like the Marshall Street Landing that just opened, or some other facilities. HUD is just screwing around and saying, no, instead we just want to fund outreach and shelters, which, it's really bizarre. So 20 states have sued HUD, sued the federal government, and luckily one of them is Colorado. Thank you, Phil Weiser. So just stay tuned for more. So it's food, it's healthcare, and it's housing and shelter that are all critically threatened right now.
Thank you. Political action.
Sure. All right, I will try to keep this short. You all have heard why we need political action. This next year is going to be a biggie. We have all of this county offices up for grabs. We have all of the statewide offices up for reelection, and we have a House seat that affects Arvada up. We are going to try to reconstitute our committee, and we will be trying to meet every month, the third Thursday of every month, starting in January. So January 15th, 6:30 p.m. We're going to meet at the Mirror Image Arts Building, which is across from the old Peck Elementary School off of 6490 Carr Street. So join us, help us map out our 2026. It's going to be a lot of work.
Thank you. Anybody speaking for Social Connections? I don't think so. Our team leader is, we may have a vacancy there, I'm not sure. And finally, Immigrant Partnership, Pat Malone is not online. All right, let's move to our topic of the day. Yes.
Rally team.
Rally team, absolutely. You're not on my list, but you're in my heart.
Hi, I'm Mara Otley. I'm here for Nancy tonight. She's out of town. So Rally Team organizes rallies and tries to keep you aware of all the rallies that are in the area. We have a rally every Sunday at 80th and Watts at the Safeway parking lot. It's at 11 to noon or 12:30, depending on how many honks and how energized we are that day. But tomorrow we're joining No Fascists, No Kings, which is at the northwest corner of 120th and Sheridan. So if you want to come out and wave and fight fascism, come on to 120th and Sheridan at 11 o'clock tomorrow. Also coming up on December 20th from 12 to 2 at Grandview and the Wadsworth Overpass, we're going to have a Goodwill to All protest party. So this will be a protest, but a really fun, festive atmosphere. We'll have music on the bridge. We're also going to be collecting donations for Community Table. So stop by the bridge, drop off any donations for Community Table, and hopefully we'll get enough people to line Wadsworth down from the bridge down to Roston. Bring your signs, bring your festive attitude. Thanks. Have a great day.
Dar-Lon, you're up. The meeting is climate change, and Dar-Lon's the man to start us off.
Thank you, Jim. So I'm the Climate Action Team Lead for APA. I'm also a former ExxonMobil research engineer. I worked for ExxonMobil for 16 years, and I was naive enough to think that I could help change ExxonMobil from the inside and get them to move to clean energy. Unfortunately, I had to quit out of conscience in 2019, and it felt like I was part of the tobacco industry at the time, that they were fighting against any regulation, any decarbonization. But we've seen what happened with the tobacco industry over time. Now public smoking isn't allowed in most public spaces. We want to do the same for the fossil fuel industry and have as little use of oil and gas in public spaces as we can. So moving on to the slides, Taylor, could you pull that up? So I'm going to be talking about the Arvada Climate and Sustainability Action Plan. And we really need public comments this month in December, because they're going to be releasing the full draft next week for public comment. And what they're looking for is people to submit online written public comments this month. And what they want is for those public comments to really improve the draft. So however specific you can be, pointing to a part of the draft that you think can be improved, that will be the most helpful. So moving on to the next slide. This is the timeline. This month is going to be for the written public comments. In January, we're going to have city council meeting. That will be the time when you can go up to city council, a 3-minute public comment in person. And we're going to be organizing to make those public comments cover as much as we can of the plan and show that there's a lot of support for the plan. There's also going to be a letter of endorsement that people are going to be able to sign online. It'll just be a one-click letter that if you agree with the letter, you just click and you say that you endorse. But there's also going to be a letter of endorsements from organizations. So as a group, Arvadans for Progressive Action, we want to put together a letter of endorsement, and we want to get as many other community groups to also write their own letters of endorsement, if not just click the one click for groups. Now you got to keep in mind that we've had budget to be able to get this plan together, hiring consultants, having a sustainability coordinator, but we don't have a budget for actually implementing the plan. So that's something that we're going to need help with in doing these public comments by writing how can we help the plan be stronger and be able to be eligible for grants. Because a lot of grants are looking for whether your city has a plan and whether that plan is comparable to other plans that they're seeing from other cities. So we got to be able to help the city get funding for this. And so as for this meeting, the goal of this meeting is to try to coordinate our public comments, get as many people to write public comments, but also coordinate together so that we can cover as much of the plan as we can and show that there's a lot of interest and a lot of engagement with this plan. We also want the city council to have a unanimous vote. Because if you have a unanimous vote, then there's no question from the staff that this has got to be a top priority for them. And so however much information we can get about the city council members that might be reluctant to vote for it, we want to try to address their concerns and sway their vote. Before the last election, it seemed impossible to get one city council member, namely John Marriott, to ever vote for this. But now, because of the election results, we have a chance to get a unanimous vote. And finally, we want to talk about how do we accelerate the funding and implementation of the plan. So moving on to the next slide. This is the agenda for the next hour. Please save all of your questions for all speakers to the last 15 minutes. We ask that you don't interrupt any of the speakers with questions while they're giving their presentation. I'm going to be done in about 7 more minutes. And I'm going to give you an overview of the entire hour. The next speaker will be Norbert, who will be talking about the Geos neighborhood where I live and Renee live. This neighborhood is all electric with no gas, no fossil fuels, and net zero, meaning that it generates as much electricity as we use in each house. And Norbert's going to be talking about his lessons learned from building that neighborhood. The next speaker will be Renee, who's going to be talking about her experience with other climate action plans from other cities and counties and how our plan measures up. She'll also be talking about her experience as the sustainability chair for our neighborhood. After her will be Glenn. Glenn will be talking about her experience with amplifying a small budget. And that's what we're dealing with. We don't have much budget in Arvada. We want to do the most that we can with that budget, and Glenn will speak to that. After that will be Michelle, who will be talking about rodenticide and its impacts on wildlife and how we can incorporate this as part of the plan. Next will be Kathleen, that we talked about phasing out gas-powered leaf blowers. So she'll be talking about how we can use the plan to help do that. And finally, Mark will be talking about the built environment for the plan. So moving to the next slide. So I'm going to start with talking about the Jefferson County Students and Parents for Climate Action. You'll note on the bottom right there that the Arvadans for Progressive Action is one of the endorsers for this organization. They had success in getting the Jefferson County School Board to unanimously vote for a 4th ENDS. The ENDS are the policies that the school district measures all of their decisions against. And so the 4th END is about environment and sustainability. And that was because of students going up to give public comment to the Jefferson County School Board. They had no intention of passing this until the students organized and gave public comment over the summer. And that resulted in their vote in October that was unanimous for having this ends. And this ends policy being unanimously voted on, it resulted in a Golden Telegram article showcasing the students and showcasing the organization behind it that got this ends passed. And in something out of a Dr. Seuss story, there was a parent who was about to have a tree cut down in her back outside her backyard because she's next to a school. The district was going to cut it down, but because of its ends policy being passed, they decided not to cut down the tree. So it shows the power of having a unanimous vote and having public comment. Moving on to the next slide. This is the Jefferson County Climate Action Dashboard. Jefferson County already has climate action goals, and that goal is to reach 73% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2035, which is in line with what the state is going for and in line with a 1.5 degree C target set by the IPCC. So this ambitious target is already in effect for our county, but it's not necessarily in effect for our city. And our city might not be able to do our fair share if we don't give public comment and help the plan get stronger. The other part of it is reducing the climate risk for people with the most inequity that historically have been disadvantaged because of the lack of climate action and the use of fossil fuels. You can see our progress so far as a county. We're still far from the 73% that we want to get to, but we're on our way as a county. Moving on to the, yes.
I'm sorry, I just want to interrupt just to point out that in the climate action plan, it says 72% by 2050 as a comparison.
Oh, okay.
And not 73 by 2035.
Yes. Yes. So good point. Moving on to the next slide. The dashboard is being stewarded by the Jefferson County Sustainability Commission, and I'm a member of this commission. I just joined a couple of months ago. This commission is helping Jefferson County make decisions about $500,000 per year to be able to implement their plan. So this is one area where we could actually be able to help the city of Arvada get funding. And if you want to get the link for the commission, there's the QR code there. The commission has done a lot of other things as well, like giving awards. In fact, the Geos neighborhood was a recipient of one of the awards. And a number of the students that were part of the school district doing the unanimous vote, those students also got recognition from the awards from the Jefferson County Sustainability Commission. So moving on to the next slide, we really want to be part of a bigger picture, and that part of that bigger picture could be this Colorado Communities for Climate Action. There are more than 40 cities and counties that are part of this regional coalition that can get resources and can get staff power. So we want to be a part of this, but right now Arvada is not. So passing this plan could be a big stepping stone to making us part of this bigger group. Moving on to the next slide. This is the Arvada Sustainability Advisory Committee slide, and Mark and I are part of the committee. I'm currently chair of the committee. We've been working on getting this plan together, and the plan is actually building on what was done in 2012, which was a Sustain Arvada plan. But it was only focused on sustainability, and it wasn't focused at all about greenhouse gas emission reductions and metrics. And that's really what this plan is adding now. So moving on to the next slide. These are slides that were given to me by Steve Russell, who is the sustainability coordinator and the staff member. So moving through these slides quickly, next slide. I like this because it shows a visual representation of all the parts of the plan that we're going to try to cover and get as much public comment on. Moving to the next slide. So we got a 30% reduction goal by 2030 and 60% by 2050. It does ask you in the public comment if you think that we're being ambitious enough. And it's perfectly okay to say that we're not being ambitious enough because these goals do not align with the county and state goals. And Steve is very cognizant of that. Moving on to the next slide. This is the vision that we have. And you can quote this vision when you're doing the public comment. We're supposed to dream big and deliver. And right now our plan doesn't seem to be doing that. So it's fair to put that in your comment. So that's my end of 10 minutes. If you go to the next slide, this is just the link the QR code that you can use to sign up for the newsletter telling you when you can give your public comment. Okay, so Norbert will be the next speaker, and he's got 5 minutes.
Right. Thanks for the 5 minutes. I'm walking slowly because I had a stroke 2 years ago and I was half paralyzed. And so I've been working the last 2 years to be able to walk again. But I still am very, very committed of what we did in Geos. I wonder how many of you have actually been to Geos once? Oh, that means about a third of you. Very good. So I'm now studying the sustainability plan, and I was very impressed that the first sustainability plan was done in 2015, and I was working with the city in the years from 2009 till 12 to get Geos approved. And I hope that Geos also had an influence on the new sustainability plan, because our purpose was to try to get as close to a neighborhood where I grew up in Salzburg, which is a city in Austria, and where people all knew each other well and worked together. And I thought we lost this concept in our standard neighborhoods in our suburbs. And so we designed with a group of architects in Boulder a community which had a density of 40 houses per acre. And at that time, when I started talking to city council members in Arvada, I got a feedback, do you want to build a chicken coop? And now 20 homes per acre is not standard yet, but we are close to it. We are more like 10 units per acre now in all the new buildings. And we did this with 2 or 3 years talking with the planning commission and bringing in architects from Boulder. And I even took the planning commission once to Boulder to a neighborhood which is called Holiday Neighborhood in North Boulder, which was pretty much my model to copy again in Arvada. And so I congratulate the planning commission primarily that they were already passing our concept almost 20 years ago. And that was a breakthrough. It took us many, many days and many, many projects and helps to make this commonly accepted. And I think with 40 families now in living our initial part of the neighborhood, we had a success. We have a wonderful community. Everyone knows each other. We are working all kinds of gardens and many other things. And that's what we should have. That's where we should live. We should live as communities and active communities. I did not succeed in one concept, which was that we got a multifunction zoning, and we have in each of our buildings a ground level room which could be used as an in-house office. I was thinking of maybe getting little play groups, or maybe a lawyer or a massage studio there. And that's what we have in our neighborhoods in Europe. And it didn't work yet, but it might. I have now just met a lady who is a rolfing lady, and she uses the room for her rolfing. And so this is good. The reason I am going to all this is we planned two things. We planned first the development, which I just described right now, which is high density and broken up storm sewers, which are little parks for children to play in, because we don't have many storms anymore, unfortunately. And The other thing was all our buildings are facing south. This is something which struck me immediately when I came to Colorado with 300 days of sunshine. We should have the sun heating our houses in the wintertime. But that means we have to have large windows on the south. And 50% of all our windows in Geos are on the south side, and the other 50% on the other three sides. So, I'm running out of time.
30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds. One thing, let me do one thing. I was very impressed that 60% of all our greenhouse gases in Arvada and obviously everywhere in Colorado are produced by homes. It's not the city buildings do like 5% and maybe, and we do like 15% with the cars, but 50% is our homes, which are 50% gas and 50% electric. And if we want to get to these reductions in greenhouse gases, we have to do something about our existing homes. We have to go electric. Fortunately, Excel is helping us a lot with money, and we have to get rid of the gas. And that's what needs to go into the plan. So I will send comments on that subject. Thank you.
Thanks, Norbert. 10 minutes.
Okay.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Renee Azerbegi, and my background is in the commercial green building and energy efficiency space for the past 25 years. I looked at a presentation, but I have a table I can kind of summarize. I looked at 4 different cities compared to Arvada. Arvada is about 120,000 population. Other cities that are over 100, less than 160 are Lakewood, Westminster, and Boulder. Another one that's very small, but it's done a lot of green things is Golden. It's only 20,000. And so when you look at Arvada, you kind of think about, well, what does Arvada want? What does it want to be like in terms of a city, in terms of its green and energy goals? Does it want to be more like Westminster, which is kind of not doing a whole lot? It's doing some things, but not a whole lot. Or Golden or Lakewood, who are doing a lot, or Boulder, who's like going all the way, right? I didn't look at Denver, it's just too big, and they're doing a lot of stuff too, but Denver and Boulder are probably doing the most in the Denver metro region in terms of sustainability. For example, Golden and Lakewood, in terms of green building goals, they both have a checklist that you have to go through to build a green building. You can do LEED as an option, but you don't have to. And it's not just for their buildings, it's for all buildings. You can see on Ralston, you see all these apartments popping up really quickly, right? They're doing it because there's not a lot of extra requirements. You just have to meet code here. So that's, I guess, one thing I'd like to see is, it'd be nice if they had something more than code that you have to do to build here. Green building, so municipal green buildings, most of them across the board say meet LEED Silver. Arvada says LEED Silver, prefer gold, which is nice. But most of them have a minimum requirement of LEED Silver from this municipal buildings. For energy, I guess I picked the wrong data point. Thanks. There was a reference to some study that said you could get to that low, but I guess the data point that they picked is still a little low compared to other energy requirements in other cities. For example, there's this so the IECC energy code is kind of what dictates how efficient your buildings are. There's a state requirement that says by July next year, buildings have to adopt IECC 2021 and the model energy code and the solar ready codes. So that's already required. If we said, well, we want 2024 code, that's going to be 3 years better, right? And not everyone has done that except Boulder. But most of them are referring to the 2021 code right now. Actually, Boulder is 2021, but they have so many additional requirements to the 2021 that it's a lot harder. Golden is actually the one that's adopting 2024 sooner than other cities. So Right now, Arvada is at 2018 code, but I think they're gonna push it to 2021. But it's like, well, why don't we push it to 2024? We're already in 2026 next year, so it's always better to be closer to the year the code was published. Let's see, municipal energy codes, nothing too specific that city of Arvada has to meet. And the other ones mostly have adopted, like, well, Boulder is saying net zero by 2031 for commercial and municipal buildings. For waste, there's very limited, there's a lot of sections in there that are, I would say, carrots, not sticks. And the question is, do we want to add some sticks in there, like make people do stuff? For example, Boulder and Lakewood both have construction and demolition waste recycling requirements for all buildings. And so it's like, well, I don't really see that in there. And so just think about, when you go through each section of, and I'm hoping you all do look at the plan, when you look at each section of the plan, how can we strengthen it? How can we make sure that something will happen? Because there's just a lot of soft recommendations in the plan overall. And if you really want to make something like an impact, ideally you'd set a requirement, because that's really how you can change the whole entire city. If it's just soft, it's, just the gung-ho people will do it and not everybody. And so that's the main thing that I just wanted to mention. So that's all I have. I don't know what my time is, so you have any, I don't know questions.
Okay, yeah, just a couple more minutes. Could you talk about your experience as chair of the Neighborhood Sustainability Committee and what you think other neighborhoods could do?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of communities with HOAs have sustainability committees. Raise your hand if you know if your neighborhood has a sustainability committee. Or if you know, how about raise your hand if you know it doesn't? Okay, more hands. And so this was already, I just moved into the neighborhood in February and I heard there was a committee, and then it sort of kind of fizzled out. It's like, okay, I'm happy to chair it. And so we've been meeting monthly, and Dar-Lon and Norbert are on the committee, and we've been making a lot of progress, just trying to inform people, like, how do you compost right? And how do you get the right recycling size bin and trash bin and things like that. So it's just like little things that we've been trying to do, and meeting monthly really helps to move progress, to make progress.
I don't know if anybody talks about composting, but I would like to share with you that I have learned that non-composting, that means putting all the compostable thing in the trash, produces as much greenhouse gas than driving the cars. And this is major, because whatever goes into the trash creates methane, and that's 40 times more aggressive than CO2. So composting is very, very important, although it's an extra job in the kitchen.
Yeah, at the Geos neighborhood, we have curbside composting, and it's only about $9 per home for curbside composting. For people who are trying to get it for their own home individually, it's about $40 per home. So being able to do it as a neighborhood really cuts down on costs and makes it available to a lot more people. So Renee, do you have any?
I'd like to have the trash company also put in a compost, because that could be part of the greenhouse plan.
Right. So Renee, any final thoughts?
Yeah, this is a very active community. We get together 6 times a year during potlucks. And so our sustainability committee will go to those potlucks and just have a little, 5-minute little speech on something sustainable, just to, keep the conversation going. And it's been a lot of fun.
Okay, thanks for being here. So next we have Glenn for 5 minutes.
You have slides. You have slides.
No, I don't have slides. Sorry, I don't have slides. I had a big argument with Google Slides this afternoon. So Google Slides won. So as Dar-Lon was saying, and can everybody hear me without the mic?
Hold the mic.
How about now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Better. So as Dar-Lon was saying, it's great to have a plan, but we need to figure out how we're going to implement it. And that requires a budget. climate action plans require the spending of money somehow. Let me say a little bit about why Dar-Lon asked me to talk today. I'm a pretty recent transplant to Arvada. Actually, I grew up here, spent my career in California, and just came back last year. While I was in California, I was there a professor of environmental studies at San Francisco State. And my main interest was in international environmental affairs, but I decided I had to learn how cities work. And so when the city advertised an opening for the Open Space and Ecology Committee, which is kind of the equivalent of Arvada's Sustainability Committee, I applied for it and got on and stayed 16 years. So, and during that 16 years, we wrote a climate action plan, and we actually figured out how to take some actions that would make the city more sustainable than it was. Brisbane and Arvada are very different. Brisbane's very small. It's really a kind of bedroom community of San Francisco, about 20 miles south, right near the airport. If you've ever flown into San Francisco, it's right on the bay. I will say, I think it's more environment forward than Arvada is. The whole state of California likes to bill itself as a climate leader, and in many ways it is. But one thing that Arvada and Brisbane have in common is that our committee had a very small budget, just like the Sustainability Committee here. Despite that, we managed to do some pretty significant things, and I want to talk a little bit about how we did that. The first thing we did really was apply for grants. That takes staff time, but it is very worth doing. And I can safely say that we would not have accomplished as much as we did. And our little city won 3 Beacon Awards from the Institute of Local Governments in California for environmental policy. And so we did do some things to be proud of for a small city. So we got grant funding, and I'm just going to give 2 examples of projects that we got grants for. One of them was a climate resilience planning grant. This came from Caltrans, which is the equivalent basically of CDOT. It's the transportation agency for the state. And that was $250,000. Brisbane has some problems that Arvada doesn't. It's right on San Francisco Bay. Sea level rise is an issue. We've got the major 101 freeway through our city, through Brisbane. And so that's probably why Caltrans coughed up that much money for planning for sea level rise. The second one, which is more relevant, I think, to us, is that in many ways, the centerpiece of action that came out of our climate action plan is the building efficiency program, which the council passed in 2019. We, on the committee, meeting with city staff, realize that despite new development, which can be built to higher standards, I mean, you can build for all electric. Our biggest problem was existing buildings. And I suspect that's true in Arvada also. We've got hundreds, thousands probably of existing buildings that need to be upgraded. Looking further at the data we got from our inventory, we realized that commercial buildings was where we could have the biggest impact, getting them to start taking measures to reduce their emissions. And so we came up with this building efficiency program. We looked at what other cities were doing, and we tweaked it. And we got a grant to build the building efficiency program. And this one came from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. And that was, I think, $150,000. But that just built the program, the website, the requirements, and all that. How did we actually put that program to work? Well, here's point number 2, interns. We used a lot of interns, and we paid them. There are a lot of impoverished college students wanting career experience that will work for free, but we didn't do that. We paid them. And I just took a quick look at my University of Denver. They have a school of it's actually the College of Professional Studies, in which they offer a whole lot of specific specializations. energy analytics, energy and sustainability, on and on. And these are grad students. So the building efficiency program, which involved a lot of one-on-one work with businesses, interns and climate fellows, which is a type of internship, did a lot of that work. We could not have implemented that program and done the one-to-one outreach without them. So,
sorry, Glenn, we're out of time. Could you finish up in 10 seconds?
Okay, I've got 2 more points. So interns, one other thing I will say is that we trained the city staff on the climate action plan. And the way we did that was that our sustainability coordinator bought pizza lunches. She probably got really tired of pizza. She bought pizza lunches for city staff. And so the city staff training was done at lunch hours with free pizza provided by the city. We did have that much of a budget. And I think this is very important. We asked city staff for suggestions. Make a suggestion box, because people at Public Works, for example, will have a lot of ideas about how to reduce emissions. They feel bought in if they're asked for their opinions, and their opinions can actually make a difference. And I've got a couple more things, but we can deal with that during the question period if people like.
Thanks, Glenn. Thank you. Okay, so we have slides for Michelle.
Thank you. My name is Michelle DeLaria. My background is in the environmental field. And I guess I can just start talking and then Taylor can pull up my slides.
Yeah,
I'm here to talk about.
Sorry, can you advance?
Yeah, I'm here to talk about rodenticides, rat poison, rodent bait, that kind of thing. So rat poison kills more than rats. Basically, whether it's the boxes that you see around commercial areas or residential buildings or the hardware store poison, there's no magic in this. It's bait. It attracts rodents. They eat it. Their poison bodies they walk their poison bodies around, and there's no poison rodent fairy. Other animals eat it. Whoever would eat a rodent gets poisoned, and then they get sick and die. I have personal experience. My dog had a empty rodent container that a squirrel brought in my yard. $300 emergency vet bill because of a neighbor. I have also had an owl and squirrels die in my yard with no obvious injuries. This is likely rodent poison. Animal control people have stories about animals that die with no obvious injuries, hawks that never fledge. It's poisoned food. So the solutions are low cost, no tech. I mean, this is one of the simplest things to prevent and solve. Next slide, please. Here's what works on our behalf in the suburbs. Hawk, cat, owl, fox, that is the most common thing. I've got a camera and I'm catching, fox and cat frequently and through my yard. And next slide, please. So this is my camera, this is my fox. I've got 3 foxes. Unfortunately, one is already showing signs of mange. Mange is caused by rodent poison. It weakens the immune system and then they get mange and then they die. So when I can keep my rodents or my rodent hunters alive by not using poison, but when they get poisoned on my neighbor's property, they're not around to hunt in a large area, and then it makes it worse for all of us. And like I said, it is bait. It's attracting rodents to people's property. And so those who use rodent poison, it looks like they're making it potentially worse for the rest of us to kill our free rodent, control services. The next slide, please. And then it only takes an owl would eat about 1,000 rodents a year plus, and fox is 5 to 10 rodents a night. So to poison a rodent that kills the animal that eats thousands of rodents, you can quickly see how it makes the problem worse. And then this food web right here, I call it like the poison web, because whatever's eating a rodent, it's just going cycling through like a ghost net. And then that's a fox. It's got mange. It only takes 1 to 3 poison rodents to kill an owl. Next slide, please. And this is what the boxes look like. So we've seen these. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. They're the black boxes that are outside commercial areas. I'm noticing they're popping up in houses in my neighborhood. And basically, I
I used to actually see owl pellets in my yard. I used to hear owls. I hardly hear a hoot anymore, because it's so effective at killing owls. And here's the labels, first and second generation anticoagulants and nerve toxins. Basically, the first generations required multiple feedings to kill a rodent. These new ones, it's basically killing a rodent in one feeding. So you can see how much more effective it is at killing the animals that eat the rodents. Next slide. So what can we do part? This is not a hard thing to solve. One, don't feed them. Any wildlife requires food, forage, and cover. So the easiest thing, and I'm not assigning blame here. Rodents find food. If there's a garden, if there's a fruit tree, if their neighbor is feeding chickens. I had chickens for years, and I was very careful to only put the food out that my chickens would eat, not feeding the rodents. So covered trash cans, bungee cords. Bungees are about $3. That one on the left, uncovered trash can. So wind, birds, raccoons, all going through that. Next slide, please. So again, if we're leaving out food for chickens, we're probably feeding mice. And so it's a right and a responsibility to not have our activities cause problems. Compost, I love composting. I compost, but I do it in a way that doesn't provide food for rodents. Next slide. So the summary of what we can do, basically it's called integrated pest management. One, you go around your property, you plug the holes. We do trash management, landscaping, dense landscaping that is like providing a path for rodents to have, food, forage, cover right up to your garage door, allows them an entry point. I use open areas. If I see a rodent, like if I see a rodent running along my fence, I just clear out with a weed whacker so that there's an open area for the hawks to hunt. They hunt along power lines. And instead of, there's targeted trapping, there's rodent birth control, there's electronic traps, contrapest is the birth control. And next slide, please. Climate action plan, I provided some sections where I thought this could be mentioned, both with rodenticides and trash aspect, the different sections. I have a resource page on the next slide. And my email is on the bottom. And I think that's my 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So Kathleen is our next speaker. She's got 4 minutes.
Thank you. I don't think I need.
I'm just going to speak really briefly about air pollution. And part of that is eliminating those gas-powered leaf blowers. They drive me crazy. Not only do they cause a lot of air pollution, but they cause a lot of noise pollution. And I feel sorry for the people who operate those because they're getting all that right in their face. So I did write the city council and suggest that the way to start that is for the city to eliminate their gas-powered leaf blowers first and set an example for the community. Secondly, I would like to, and I might write this in the action plan, eliminate wood burning fireplaces and wood burning stoves. They produce a lot of pollutants and particulates in the air, which are very, very dangerous to our health. Gas fireplaces aren't much better, are they, Norbert? And so the way the city could effectively use that is for any new construction, don't build fireplaces. What do we need fireplaces? We don't need fireplaces. In closing though, air pollution really affects our brains and our mental capacity. And that is a fairly recent study that has come out. The first thing for the city to do is make people aware of these dangers and issues, and then try to implement change. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. And our final speaker is Mark.
Hi, thank you.
Slides?
Yes, slides. And he's got 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10? Yeah, anyway, hi. So I'm Mark Jelinske. I'm registered mechanical engineer, and I've been designing large commercial buildings for a long time. I'm a member of the Arvada Sustainability Action Committee, and I'll talk today about the how the Climate and Sustainability Action Plan, the KSAP. Why not? KSAP affects the built environment. So electrification is one area that we hear an awful lot about when we talk about sustainability in the built environment. We need to be careful though. Careful design can indeed result in lower utility costs. Geos is a good example of that. And simple design can lead to affordability. But sometimes the two things don't necessarily work together. Existing buildings was mentioned. It's very difficult to try to totally electrify an existing building, either due to heating and cooling loss issues or due to electric service issues. But there's always nice, simple ways to go when you can. There's always an option usually for you, and here's just a few of them. Here's a hybrid electrification. Now, yes, we'd very much like to totally get rid of gas, but it's going to be very difficult to do that in neighborhoods, in individual houses. Come in and change your gas furnace and put in something all electric. What can be done, and this is my house, by the way. This is what I did. I had an old, inefficient gas furnace and an air conditioner. I replaced that with a high efficiency gas furnace and a outdoor air source cold climate heat pump that really can heat down to fairly extreme conditions. However, Excel, if you may have seen your bill, they have a time of use bill, right, or a time of use rate. So between 9 and 5, it's about twice as expensive to operate electric appliances as it is the rest of the day. So that's another reason to at least be able to have that flexibility to use one versus the other. And really, in the big scheme of things, there's not that many hours of a year where the temperature is so cold that an electric heat pump isn't totally efficient, and therefore on a the total annual hours of a year, you're still completely decarbonizing, if not discarbonizing, throughout the year. This can be applied. This needs to be thought about in affordable housing because again, a lot of that housing stock is existing and it's poor envelope to begin with. So if it's already got old HVAC equipment, the thought is replace that in a hybrid manner, but using heat pump systems that can operate for 85% of the heating season. Modular construction is used to reduce the cost in the first place of affordable housing and provides for a skilled, sustainable workforce. Unfortunately, that picture came out of the Denver Post a couple days ago about a prefab building operator going out of business. We've got an awful lot of semi-industrial areas in Arvada, don't we? I think it would make a good thing. So ground source heat pumps are another technology that people like me apply for sustainability. Ground source heat pumps on an individual building basis, like the one over here, is a big part of the Geos neighborhood. This can go to the extreme of digging way down and actually getting to the point of hot rocks and bringing up enough hot temperature for making steam. CU wants to do this. It's looking pretty darn good there, actually, to drill down to hot rocks and replace their steam loop on campus. What can be done in the Arvada scale of things is a geothermal network, which combines multiple users onto a common network. Each one of those, what goes on with a standard ground source heat pump is that you drill a bunch of holes in the dirt, and then exchange heat between the soil and water, and then a heat pump draws heat out of or rejects heat into that loop. When you put a bunch of buildings on there, they can all do that, and there will always be some buildings that want heat, some that want cooling. If you get a mixed use community of retail and office and food service and data centers, which want to put heat on the network all the time, that heat can be used by other users on the system. So, next slide. Microgrids are something also that are used generally used on a community basis. So in the context of the case app, it's a great thing to think about. It can also be used on a small individual building basis. The Arvada Center, the theater on Wadsworth, has its own little microgrid, mainly for resiliency, because the concept is you have multiple inlets and multiple inputs and multiple outputs of energy into a system that either by design, by voluntary, can be disconnected from the utility grid, and that microgrid can island and work on its own. Hopefully, it's got plenty of renewables on there and storage, because voluntarily you might want to do that to avoid the peak rates of utility, or it could be involuntary during a brownout or blackout, right? So this provides both resiliency and sustainability, and the resiliency components can help justify the high cost of putting all these systems together in the first place, because you get more out of it than just the immediate payback or the return on investment. Opportunities out there. This gets into my world quite a bit. Evaporative cooling. We think of that in this residential swamp cooler thing. Don't think about, that's not what I'm talking about here. We're talking about being able to use evaporative cooling in large commercial buildings. This is the Golden Hill office building. I worked in that building for 8 years. There is not a bit of refrigeration in that building. There's no what you'd call air conditioning. You don't push the button and the compressors come on. It's just evaporative cooling. Broomfield Recreation Center, the pools themselves are conditioned completely by evaporative cooling system. So again, allow us engineers to get after this and incentivize us with things like the CSAP, KSAP, that because what do municipalities, what can they do? Well, he'd follow or get out of the way. When you look at who said this, it was either Patton or Thomas Paine. I'm going with Thomas Paine just because it's 250 years now. That's a good, cool, whatever. So it really, if Churchill or Mark Twain didn't say it, then it's one of these guys. So go ahead. So what is the role? Be guided by the KSAP. Follow stakeholder input, right? That's so be there, speak out. Oh my, you should have seen all the people in red shirts when they didn't want a RV. Anyway, wow, it didn't affect anything. Anyway, just go say something, but it's impressive. It can be good. So I just put a few other things out here. This is what Arvada is. It's in the KSAP. They are trying to lead by example. They're telling you right here what the intent is. Yeah, there's budgets. So a lot of this, the intent is when we got to do something, let's do it the right way, right? Municipalities can be involved in big stuff. They're the ones that are involved with the big yellow machines are out there, moving dirt and creating, new developments. Denver first and Arvada has in the KSAP, they want to engage with the public and private and other networks of people. So Denver has been engaging in public-private utility-based networks for lots of large-sized projects. These are somewhat pie in the sky. I love this one here where they'd love to recover waste from metro wastewater down at the Heights plant on the Platte. They've got to reject heat before all that the effluent goes into the South Platte. So they got to reject heat. Well, can we put a pipe in to the Denver City Center and connect up with the downtown Denver utility steam and chilled water loop? Cool stuff out there. This is the kind of thing that the municipalities can do. Here in Arvada, we do a lot of urban redevelopment, both new and existing. So sustainable or affordable housing, make sustainable decisions as you're making. Make them sustainable today, and it'll be sustainable for the life of the building. Multi-use buildings, there's my thermal network. Try to accomplish that. And Arvada does want to highlight their success stories. So there we go. And we have success stories, right? So and even those things, this is what makes it possible to get that last mile to sustainable travel. So just don't trip on them.
Thank you, Mark. So now we're gonna have a Q&A with all the presenters. You can feel free to ask questions to any particular presenter. And also if you just have a question for the entire group, that's fine too. So Kathleen, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, Mark, could you explain how evaporative cooling works?
Oh, I'm sorry?
Could you explain how evaporative cooling?
Sure. Well, and I skipped over real quick.
Repeat the question for people.
Yes. The question was, can I explain how evaporative cooling works? I kind of skipped over the swamp cooler example because I didn't want you to think too much about that. But that's what it is. It's the swamp cooler on the roof that you see on some homes. The way those work is air is drawn over a pad that looks very much like a filter, but it'll hold water. And as the water is dribbled on it, as the water dribbles down the pad, air blows across it. And as air goes across the water, it evaporates the water. And in order to evaporate the water, it has to absorb heat. The water has to absorb heat in order to evaporate. It's essentially boiling at atmospheric pressure. So it's absorbing heat. And what happens when you absorb heat out of something? The temperature has to drop. So the temperature you can bring in, 90-degree air from the outside. It's really dry in our climate. Add moisture to it and drop the temperature at the same time. When the simple systems, unfortunately, they're called swamp coolers, not because they do a good job of cooling swamps. They wouldn't. There's too much moisture in the air in the swamp. People feel they turn their indoor environment into swamps. Yes, you got to watch out for that. That's engineering.
So how does that work in a really large building?
Yeah, how does it work on
Sorry?
On a large building, on a commercial building.
So a large building. Okay, keep on. All right. There's something called, first of all, indirect evaporative cooling, where you use, I don't know if you can get back to my slides or not on those where I had pictures of big buildings. But you can, we hear an awful lot, just to maybe what we've heard in the press about how data centers use a lot of water. That's because water is used for cooling in cooling towers. Instead of just rejecting heat at 100 degrees on the top of a roof, water will evaporate, especially here in Colorado with our low temperature, with low humidity. Water will evaporate at about 60 degrees or so, and that's on the high end. So you can get a good cold water from a cooling tower. You bring that water through a coil, and you asked, you bring that water through a coil and blow air across that, just like on a radiator on your car or whatever, and that coil is what's cooling the air. So that's a dry heat exchange. Because you cooled the water with the cooling tower, put it through pipes and put it through a coil. So see, now that's where you go in commercial, is you're trying not to put all that moisture in the air. You can also do it with just plain old mechanical cooling. Again, this gets into, do you have to go all the way? If the goal is, I don't want no refrigeration in my building, well, I can do that, but it's going to cost you that much more to do that for only a handful of hours. So what we like to do is look at the annual cost on these, and just like sometimes a little squirt, couple hundred hours of gas heating in the year isn't going to, melt too many more. You get cost benefit analysis compared to ripping something out, compared to not doing a project at all, not having any cooling at all, and because of an expensive no refrigeration thing, or let's put in a little bit of refrigeration and only use that for 200 hours a year. So anyway, it's always cheap.
So I've been fascinated with this forever. At what temperature do heat pumps stop heating your house? I mean, is there like a 32 degrees? Is that the magic number?
All right.
Or is there a good number? Because I noticed, like in Arvada, we're hot, 8 months out of the year. In Leadville, Colorado, where my parents are from, they're never hot. So I mean, they never have enough heat to run a heat pump heater.
Norbert, do you want to answer?
Yeah, no, but I have a question to you about the swamp coolers.
Oh, okay.
Because I have been using indoor swamp coolers for the last 10 years, and it makes so much sense. I have a physics background, so I understand this a little bit. At the moment, we are using outdoor swamp coolers, which are on the roof. So on the roof, the temperature in the summer is 100 degrees, and you have to cool it down to what you want inside, which is maybe 70 degrees. And an indoor swamp cooler, you cool down your indoor air, and you have to only cool the air down by 1 or 2 degrees. And I don't know why this is not commonly known and practiced. It's ideal for Colorado, where we have only 25%
No,
humidity.
it's not ideal, because you're constantly you're constantly running the same water through your building, so it's not
same air.
You're using the same air over and over again.
Yes, but
I know you're using the same air over and over again, so eventually you're going to run out of air to put water into.
Too moist.
You'll get the air
No.
too moist.
Not
I mean,
if
it might
you-
work in your house,
If you have a
but that's
20
why you
degree
don't do it.
outside and I have an indoor of 45, that's not swamp. But I'm running this for like 1 hour instead of the top one for 10 hours.
Yeah. Okay,
So
so
it's
in the interest of time, just
Could
to,
you answer my question?
yeah.
Okay. So the question was about the low ambient operation of a heat pump, and it's my favorite engineering answer, which is it depends. There's air. First of all, air source. The picture I had of mine where the heat pump was starting to frost up and actually get frost on it. First of all, yes, that's a cold climate heat pump that would indeed provide, well, and then the next answer on depends is how much heat. Enough heat, there's a balance point where the capacity of a heat pump drops off with outdoor air temperature. Depending on the brand and the exact design of it, some of them just plain old shut off at about 30 degrees. The older ones especially would just plain old shut off at 30 degrees, and you better have your backup, whatever that is. If it's all electric, that's will cost you a whole lot of money. But new modern cold climate heat pumps will indeed continue to heat down to -10, -15. But that they've lost capacity all the way down there. So somewhere, if you're in a great house like Geos is built, where the thermal envelope in the first place was thought about, you might be able to get down to that little bitty bit of heat that is being put out. But otherwise, no, there's going to be a point where you need some backup heat. If that's just a handful of hours, and you don't want gas, well, it's only a handful of expensive hours of electric. Or if you have gas, it's only a handful of carbon that you're dealing with for those hours. So.
Okay, so we have some questions online. So in the interest of fairness, we're going to switch to the questions online. So Taylor?
Can you speak in?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I just wrote them down, but I want to commend the Sustainability Committee and all the presenters. I'm neighbors with next door to Renee and down the street from Dar-Lon and Norbert. So I live here in the Geos. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but I wanted to ask if we're going to have access to the plan. When do we need the letters to be written by? I need a date. And will there be any talking points provided so that we can be consistent in our asks?
Yes, thank you, Anne. So I'm going to send out an email for APA Climate Action Team, which will have the link to the public comment. And these are written public comments that are submitted online. So there's not going to be any limits as to how many you want to submit or what the length is. But just bear in mind that Steve Russell, the sustainability coordinator, is the one who's going to be reading them. And so if you can be more specific about which parts of the plan you want change and how you want it changed, he's more likely to incorporate your changes. Now, people are free to submit the comment without coordinating with us, but we are going to offer the ability to coordinate, which is if you respond to my email or if you send an email to APA Climate Action, we'll set up groups where we talk about our topics and make sure that our topics cover the span of the plan. So does that answer your question, Anne?
Yeah, and I know Harriet wrote that, asked if there's going to be the PowerPoint that you had today. Is that going to be provided through the communications or on the website?
Yes, it'll be provided. I'll include that as part of the email, and also this recording will be on YouTube. Okay, so any other questions online?
No.
Okay, so Bruce.
Yeah, I just have a number of years ago, but Excel and their electric sources of electricity was pretty heavily coal. And I know since then they've closed some power plants and that sort of thing. Do you have anyone, whoever wants to answer, what's the state of the Excel grid in terms of environmental impact?
Yeah, I got some on that.
Glenn, do you want to start, and then we'll go to Mark?
I could say a little bit about Excel because I also work with 350.org and the policy working group, and we have a lot to do with Excel. So currently, the power plants that I'm familiar with are the ones in Pueblo. There are two of them, Comanche 2 and Comanche 3. Comanche 2 was supposed to be closed by the end of this year, and Comanche 3, I think, was supposed to be closed by 2030. Well, Excel just came back to the Public Utilities Commission a couple of weeks ago and asked for a 1-year extension to keep Comanche 2 open because Comanche 3 crashed and burned and is going to be out of service until the middle of next year. So 350's comment, which we submitted to them, was we didn't want any extension on either plant. But we said if it's only going to be a year for Comanche 2, then there have to be guardrails up ensuring that both of those plants don't operate at once. Comanche 3 ought to be just euthanized because it's been out of service just an amazing amount of time. So if anybody's interested in that, check with 350colorado.org. But that's what I know. One other thing I'll say about the coal-fired power plants is that Donald Trump intervened in Michigan and forced them, I'm not sure how he did this, to keep a very expensive, inefficient coal plant operating. It was supposed to be closed, I think, this year, or it might have been closed already. And a Colorado legislator has written to the president requesting merciful extension for Comanche 2 and Comanche 3. Haven't heard anything back, but given Trump's record on this, doesn't sound good.
Thanks.
Can I just add real quickly? Thank you. I thought I heard that Trump took funding away from Xcel Energy to close the coal power plants. Is that true?
Don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
So Mark, did you have any final comments?
Yeah, so when we are saying electrification is a good thing, the reason is, based on the, carbon use intensity of, Excel locally. In different companies are different, in the Northeast, it's a low, carbon use intensity because there's a lot of, hydro from, dead rivers, right? But here, we still do have an awful lot of carbon and it's not going away as fast as possible, but it has been dropping. Most recent value, first of all, when you burn gas directly on your site, when we're looking at, say, zero carbon projects and are we indeed meeting zero carbon needs? Electricity or gas is thought to have a carbon intensity of, I think it's like 850 megatons per kBTU. Whatever the units are, it's pounds of carbon per unit of electricity. Whereas electricity used to be higher than that. Now electricity is actually lower than that 800 value for gas. So right now, if you were to run resistance heat, just straight resistance heat, no high efficiency gas or heat pump, you would indeed be using less carbon, even with Excel's carbon not completely source grid, but carbon not free grid. It is supposed to go down over the years, and that's exactly what you're talking about, making sure that it goes down to meet Excel's targets. But at least right now, we are indeed below the carbon use intensity break-even point of straight electric heat. And if you're using a heat pump with a COP of 3, you're even better than that. But electricity still costs 5 times as much as gas. So unfortunately, you're not breaking even on the cost side.
Okay, thanks. So we're at time, and I know that there's some hands up. So if you still have time to stay, I'm going to stay for another 10 minutes, and I can talk with you. Otherwise, Taylor, can you put up the slide as to the contact information? So if you have to go right now, this is the information for sending an email to us. It's the last slide, and it's also the QR codes for the full draft of the